Boom, ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and that is right. It is me, Donald, coming in as host while Naya is out on the road. So you know what that means? We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and probably how it's going to take over the world. There are rumors that Ron DeSantis is preparing a proposed AI Bill of Rights. What would that entail? Not entirely sure. We'll talk about it. Also, I am fresh off a trip from Orlando, where I took part in a debate about AI's role in education at the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warriors Conference. Then I want to discuss my claim that we are in an era of radical normalization when it comes to this emerging technology. And lastly, we are going to be playing a game of Is It Real or AI? So buckle up, because we have a great show prepared for you on episode 516 of the In the Tank podcast. That's right. Welcome to the In the Tank podcast. As always, sometimes, I'm your host, Donald Kendal, director of the Emerging Issues Center at the Heartland Institute. Today, I'm being joined by Jim Lakely, VP of the Heartland Institute. How are you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing good. You were a little light on your finger guns. There you go. I was a little disappointed. You were cropped a little tight. You had to do them in your face if you're going to get them. But yeah, welcome back to the show, Donnie, the OG host. And I'm going to love this topic. And I want to make sure everyone in the chat is going to participate in our Is It Real or Is It AI contest. So keep your fingers ready, because that's going to be a lot of fun.
That's right. Also joining us, we have Sam Karnick, Senior Fellow for the Emerging Issues Center at the Heartland Institute. Sam, how are you doing today, good sir?
Doing quite well, thank you. It's good to feel this energy here today as we all get very excited about all the fakery that's going on around us.
Yes, and I will spoil it right now. I am AI generated. This is not actually the real Donald. So, if you were waiting for that big reveal at the end, I spoiled it and gave it to you now. How many people actually believe that? I don't know. This is a weird world. We don't know what's real. We don't know what's fake. So you're just going to have to live with it, folks. But before we get into any of these topics, I will put a call out there for those audio-only listeners to maybe switch it up. Well, first off, leave a review for us on iTunes. That'd be greatly appreciated. But consider switching it up and watching us live, where we are streaming from YouTube or Rumble or Twitter or Facebook on Thursdays at noon Central Time every week. You can join in the conversation. You send us your comments and questions. Maybe we'll show your comments on the screen. Maybe we'll address your questions on the fly. But hitting that like button, sharing this content, subscribing if you haven't already, or leaving a comment, all those things help break through those big tech algorithms that prevent content like this from being shown to more people. But gentlemen, it's been a while since I've been on. How's it been going? How's the show been going? Huh? Is it just in a death spiral without me? Is Linnea doing a good job? What's your read, Jim?
Linnea's doing a fantastic job. The show
on a different topic. No, I'm kidding. I love Linnea. She's been doing a fantastic job on the show.
100%.
But yeah, so we got a lot to go into, and who knows if Justin's going to show up like midway through the episode, so we got to stay ahead of the game here. But this past weekend, I was out of town. I was at the Moms for Liberty conference, their Joyful Warriors conference. It's an annual event. I was approached about 6-7 weeks ago to take part in an AI debate. about the role of artificial intelligence in our education system. And the funny thing about it is, when I was originally approached with this opportunity, I wasn't really sure what side they wanted me to take. I was like, honestly, I could take either side. And there was a brief moment in time, like a few days, where we were discussing the idea of maybe I would take the pro side of AI being involved in artificial intelligence, and then Justin Haskins would take the negative side about keep it away from our education system. And then it would be me and Justin arguing with each other on stage, which would have been just really fun. But that kind of went away. They wanted to go in a different direction with that, so I ended up being set up to debate Ed Hudgens, PhD, a Heartland Institute alum. Ed has worked at the Heritage Foundation, the Cato Institute, like 7 other think tanks. He's the founder of the Human Achievement Alliance. He's literally been in doing stuff on the topic of emerging technology and artificial intelligence for like decades, literally decades, right? So it was a pretty formidable opponent that they had arranged for me, but it went really well. We've got some footage of the debate that I don't know, Andy, if you have that ready, we could play a couple of clips from it. The entire thing is online. If you want the link, we could send it to you, but we're not going to play an hour of it, so we'll just play a few short clips, and then we could talk about some of the actual subject matter.
AI is key to a very necessary revolution, education revolution, to individualize education. Now, let me put that in a broader context. We have right now in this country a century-old model, an assembly line, one-size-fits-all model for education. It came up in the 1920s from a guy named Frederick Taylor, who came up with concepts of mass production. And that's how we tend to do it. We come up with an average of this is what kids should be doing in the 9th grade. Here's where they should be. We give tests. That is the model. It was
for our speaker in the negative. Donnie, you have 7 minutes.
Yeah, it was very, very well put, Ed. You could almost hear the AI speaking through his earpiece, telling him to say all of those things. But I just want to start off by thanking Moms for Liberty for platforming a conversation like this. The artificial intelligence is an issue that is absolutely emerging, and we have to be in front of it. That we unrecognizable compared to today's standards. So AI is being developed at breakneck speed, backed by hundreds of billions of dollars. Ed, maybe it's in the trillions of dollars at this point. And it's being built by some of the same Silicon Valley elites and global corporations that brought us the social media that have already rewired the human brain. That alone should cause us to pause, because this time it's our children's minds that are going to be reshaped by systems we don't understand, controlled by people we didn't elect, based on rules that nobody voted on. So we are conducting a massive social experiment, and it's one that we're putting America's children right in the center of the petri dish. Yeah, so that's a few little choice clips from the debate. Like I said, the full debate is available online. That was through Rumble there. I think we could probably share the link somewhere as well. But yeah, I think we're going to post the debate in full on our YouTube page. I still owe Andy a thumbnail on that, so we'll hopefully get that up in the next day or so. But it was. I think it went really well. The audience was very receptive to my message. I was able to get a lot of points out there, and like the engagement on it afterwards, people coming up to me and talking to me about it, I thought was great. It was kind of over the top. I was kind of like a celebrity for the next day, just kind of fielding questions from people about it. But I did put that part right at the beginning of my opening statement, after the joke at Ed's expense, about just like thanking Moms for Liberty for like hosting this, because they could have taken that time. There's a short window of time, even during the 2.5-day conference, of main stage stuff. You could only put a certain amount of content up there, and they had no shortage of great guests to put up there. So to give us an hour and 15 minutes or however much it was to actually do a debate on artificial intelligence on their main stage in front of everybody, I thought was just fantastic, because they could have put us off into some breakout room where 17 people show up or something like that. But no, we had the main stage attention. And, like I've been shouting from the rooftops on podcasts like this and in my writing and whatever, it's just, we have to take this issue of artificial intelligence seriously before the revolution really, we're not 5 years into it and looking at all the negative things and wishing that we could have done something ahead of time. So it was fantastic that they hosted this and that they gave us this main stage attention. But like I said, I could have argued either side of this, really, so Ed's position was basically that the current education system is terrible. I think most people listening to this could agree with that the current public education system is just absolutely terrible. And we could do so much better if we just utilized artificial intelligence. And how artificial intelligence can bring an individualized approach to learning that would basically be unrivaled by even one-on-one tutoring standards. AI can learn and adapt to a child's strengths and limitations, reframe lessons to fit that specific student's learning styles. And then these systems could be constantly learning. They're just like developing individual education plans for every student. So that was basically his main point, just kind of sandwiched between a whole lot of AI jargony stuff. But I think it's like a solid argument to have. My argument, on the other hand, boiled down to this idea of it being an extreme social experiment that we were kind of running headlong into. I made a lot of comparisons to the idea of social media, the social media revolution, how the social media by itself is an amazing technology. It's a marvel of innovations. It's brought on it's absolutely revolutionized the way that information dissemination networks operate and all of that. But as we know with social media, it came with a whole bunch of negative consequences, whether it's psychological effects or, just everyone knows all the pitfalls of social media. So my fear was that we were going to be doing the same thing with AI, and that, my four kind of main arguments boiled down to the idea that if we lean into this in our education system, we risk the potential of degrading critical thinking skills amongst our students, and that we're basically outsourcing hard work to AI. The fear of amplifying bias, the idea that these AI systems are objective, is a joke. They have ideological beliefs built into it, whether it's on purpose or completely intentionally. And the idea that we would put it in charge of our entire education system kind of risks the idea of just cementing ideological beliefs as hardened facts. Concerns that AI is a masterful indoctrination tool, and that it could facilitate open mind and learning from both sides of the spectrum when it comes to an issue, or it could very subtly adjust the way that you're thinking about something in a tailored way specifically to you to get you to believe something. So it could be the potential of an crazy indoctrination tool. And the last thing is that it's could represent the greatest centralization of education ever. There's a million AI tools out there, but the vast majority of them are built on basically four companies' foundational models, whether it's Google or Meta or Facebook or OpenAI. So again, check out the debate if you want to see it. It was really fun. I've never spoken in front of a big crowd like that. I've never debated in front of a big crowd like that. So it's my first time. So don't be too critical on my performance up there. But yeah, it was great. I would totally do it again. I could talk all day about artificial intelligence, which I'll prove over the next hour of this podcast. But Jim, Sam, comments, questions on the debate or the subject matter or anything else?
Well, first of all, I really enjoyed the debate. I thought it was very mature and intelligent. What I like most, I think, is your connection between AI and social media. The internet was developed with these grand dreams of liberty being built up through the structure of the system, where because it would be unregulated, everything would grow up in a very natural and organic way. And of course, what happened was it was taken over by corporate power, multinational corporations, very quickly. And we're in the situation we're in now. And social media seems to have made their manipulation of the system much more powerful. So I think that is a really great observation, and it's for me a really good jumping off point, a really good starting point for a discussion of this nature, because I think we have to be serious about finding what the right policies are for this new technology. There is a way, I think, to get there, and to do things in a pro-market, pro-free market way that still keeps that frankly protects children and adults alike from fraud and coercion.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that was like my biggest comparison. I made references to ESG and the idea of kind of distorting the market system using a bunch of subjective metrics and kind of that are rooted in, ideological bias and all of that. And the fear that like these same corporations are going to be doing that to the foundations of these AI models. But the social media one, I think, was like the one that I harped on the most, because we just seen it, right? Like it was, and I made this, this statement during the debate, but it was like Silicon Valley unleashed a drug on the public with promises of it being able to do all these great things. And of course, it's able to do a lot of great things, but there was no listing or acknowledgement of all the side effects that came along with it. And we're still reeling from some of those effects now. And if only we had the forethought ahead of time, as social media was being unveiled, maybe we could have mitigated some of those things. I feel like the same thing could be said about artificial intelligence. Jim, thoughts before we move on to the next topic here?
Yeah, well, for one, you came back to the office from Orlando acting like a conquering hero. You said that you kicked our friend Ed Hudgens behind in that AI debate. I would like you to explain yourself, sir, and give us a little bit more of a summary, I guess, of your main argument, his main argument, and I'll take your word for it that the audience seemed to come down on your side of the argument. I'd just like you to flesh that out a little bit more, since I haven't yet seen the entire debate.
Yeah, well, I ran through, his argument, the individualized approach to students and these AI models being able to kind of know inside and out like a student and curate information and the ways that it teaches to them on a very individualized basis. That was kind of like the when it comes to education, that was his main point. Now he does talk about just what AI can do in terms of healthcare, in terms of logistics and supply chains or whatever, a whole bunch of different things, which he's absolutely right. Mine, were based on these like potential things that we have to be aware of, because if we're hooking all of our children into a machine that's going to indoctrinate them with the beliefs of Silicon Valley elites that are building these models, that's a huge issue. Whether or not that's actually how it's going to materialize is one thing. I know, because I was approached by some people, and I've looked into this myself, that there are AI tools out there that are a lot shorter, a lot more limited, I should say, than just like, giving a child access to some large language model and say, chat away, or something like that. That it's like very specifically honed into just like teaching them phonics or teaching them math or something. That I think that there is great potential in things like that, but we have to be aware of some of these potential shortcomings so that we don't just like think that, all right, there's nothing negative that can come across this. Let's just give all of these kids, MacBooks with unlimited YouTube availability and hope that they pay attention in school. We know that doesn't happen. So being aware of like the worst case scenarios was basically like my main position, and and then trying to mitigate those things as we kind of raise consciousness about those worst case scenarios. But it was very clear to me that I was probably talking to a kind of a biased audience, that's a little bit more hesitant when it comes to Silicon Valley in general, or advanced technology, or maybe they've read a few of my articles, that sort of a thing. But afterwards, it was just, I was approached by a lot of people, praising my performance. There was one lady, I'll end it with this. There's one lady that came up to me. She's like, my daughter and I, we're part of the debate something society. And when we heard that there was going to be a debate, we were going to be watching it very critically. And you did great. Your opponent, not as much, but you did fantastic. It's like, well, great. That's the best feedback I've gotten. So yeah, that was basically the gist of it. But make up your own decision. Watch the debate and let me know what you think. But
I did watch the entire debate, Donald, and I would have to say that my impression was that the audience was much more sympathetic to the arguments of my emerging issues teammate over there, and that they really were very much taken up with your arguments. I thought that was the case. I would say that Ed Hudgens, who is a fantastic guy, and we all really, really like Ed, he's a techno-optimist.
yes.
And that's almost a hard sell nowadays because the technology has been abused by a variety of institutions, by the government, by big businesses that have no loyalty. The one thing that we always have to understand is these companies that are multinational don't have any loyalty to America, and that's a real thing. It's not necessarily an evil thing or dangerous or horribly damaging, but it's not normal. It really isn't. It really isn't just something that's coming up out of America. It's something that is coming from elsewhere to a very great degree. So I think that, and it would be good, I think, if you were to tell the audience a little bit about Moms for Liberty, so that they could get a perspective on what the purpose behind this discussion was, beyond just debating the issue itself, but why they are so interested in it and their interest in education.
Yeah.
I'll just add to the education point, because that was a bit of the subhead on our thing here. And one of our commenters here in the chat mentioned that the ability to, or the young people, the critical thinking ability of students has already been degrading for quite some time, and that artificial intelligence is going to make that even worse. And there it is. So I agree with that. And I've harped on this like an old man, like the old man that I am, for a long time when we talk about the use of AI by students, be they in grade school, high school, or college, is that the temptation to use AI to basically do all of your research and work for you, even writing your papers, is so tempting that it's widespread. I mean, I've seen articles in the New York Times and other places where professors are basically just throwing their hands up. AI has become so good at mocking a student paper that it's hard for them to tell whether they actually did the work the old-fashioned way, or whether they asked ChatGPT or another bot to do it for them, to the extent where professors are not assigning those things anymore, because the cheating is just too rampant. So the one thing about AI, I found it a useful tool. Ironically, one of the people in the chat mentioned Sabina Hassenfelder, who did a video just, I think, 3 or 4 days ago, talking about the 3 limitations, apparently unfixable limitations of artificial intelligence. And I had not seen the video. All I saw was the prompt from that comment. And so I went to Grok, an AI chatbot, and asked Grok, what are the 3 limitations that Sabina Hassenfelder talked about? And in the time it took you to finish speaking while you were talking, Donnie, Grok found it for me. So, artificial intelligence is an extremely useful tool. Another person in the comments said it's just Google on steroids. That's part of what AI is. That's a very small part of what AI is and can do and is doing right now, as we're going to talk about in this in the show today.
Yeah, just to address some of the things that Sam said. So, Moms for Liberty is a very grassroots kind of activist organization that a lot of their kind of frontline stuff has to do with like approaching schools and curriculum and like school boards, that sort of stuff. and voicing their opinions about what should be taught and what shouldn't be taught to their students, like that sort of thing. That's probably their that's probably their bread and butter when it comes to things, but they really are expanding out into a whole bunch of different territories. The person that approached me to do this debate is leading a kind of a new thing at Moms for Liberty called Moms for Liberty Academy, where they really kind of like get down into the specifics of a bunch of different policy areas. In fact, I think we're going to be working with them on climate change and energy issues moving forward. And one of the things that they wanted to do was get into artificial intelligence, because they recognize, as I do, that this is an incredibly important emerging issue that conservatives have to have insight into if we're going to be part of the conversation, because this really is the policy debate surrounding this is going to be massive in the coming years, and conservatives need to have a voice in it. So it was great forward thinking for them. And I was glad that I was on their short list of people to participate in this debate. So, but yeah, it was great. I would totally do it again. If there's any speaking opportunities to talk about AI, I will jump on it. But let's get into the next thing here, because this was a realization that I had recently, and it was brought on kind of in a silly fashion, and I'll show you why. So, you know what? Forget it. Let's just play the clip that Andy. Let's play that Mr. Rogers clip, and then I'll explain the revelation that I had afterwards.
You want to know the truth? I don't give a shit about my neighbors.
Oh my God!
I don't give a shit about your damn kids either.
What did you say? I can't believe this.
Think this ring is your happy little neighborhood, huh? You think your hero's gonna come save you? Not tonight. Not in my neighborhood. What's his name? Tell me.
John.
Wrong. The only name that matters is Mr.
You cost me that match, and you know it.
Mr. Rogers,
Don't you talk to me. 3 counts clear as day, and you turn it into 2. You think I didn't see you?
Somebody
I've
get
done
in
the
here.
neighborhood on
Stop him,
respect,
please.
and you spit on it.
I just
Next
tell
time,
him I
open your
saw it.
eyes.
Back up.
Oh, I hear you. All that noise. It sounds like jealousy from the neighborhood. You don't have to like me. You just have to understand.
It's not a beautiful day anymore. You didn't want a neighbor. You wanted a problem. Now you got one.
So I just want to explain that those videos right there, 100% AI generated. That's not CGI. That's not a team of computer graphics experts putting that together. That's not a deep fake. It's not like they added Mr. Rogers into some old WWF videos or something. Everything you saw in that clip from Mr. Rogers on stage, the audio of it, the background, everything was 100% AI generated, specifically from Sora 2 video generation from OpenAI. Somebody just typed in a prompt asking for a video of Mr. Rogers competing in the WWF, probably back in the Attitude Era, because it looks so familiar to me. Hit enter, and eventually these videos popped out the other side. So this made me think, like, this sort of technology would have been laughable if it were suggested to be possible just a couple of years ago. So what we're living through right now is essentially an era of technological miracles, or maybe a technological Pandora's box, depending on how you want to look at it. In just the last couple of years, AI has gone from like generating blurry kind of videos that look like something out of a weird dream to generating entire worlds, voices, faces, personalities. These systems are learning how to think, reason, and create faster than anything that like humans can do. That's beyond a doubt at this point. And the truth is that people are just sleepwalking through this era and pretending that it's just Google on steroids. Like, Google can't do that, okay? AI can do that. AI can do that with a prompt and hitting the enter button. So the truth is, AI is going to change everything. It's already writing code. It's already analyzing court rulings. It's already diagnosing patients. It's managing logistics for Fortune 500 companies. It's generating new scientific discoveries in the healthcare field and elsewhere. There are AI systems right now that are designing new materials, developing new medicines, coordinating real-world operations with almost no human input. We are rapidly approaching a point where the most complex parts of civilization, whether it's research, finance, governance, are being run, shaped, and optimized by non-human intelligence. And the crazy part is that we're all just here acting like this is normal. I mean, we play that clip of Mr. Rogers and we just kind of laugh, and then after you see a couple of them, you start to scroll past it when it shows up in your news feed. I mean, we are watching AI-generated presidents debate each other on TikTok and just kind of laughing about it. But think about what's actually happening here. We've built systems that can convincingly simulate human thought and speech, creativity. And these are systems that don't sleep or eat. They can process more data in a second than a human can in their lifetime. And we're just all nonchalant about it. And this is what I'm calling the radical normalization of AI, where society absorbs miracles like this, just like it's some software update. We've normalized magic. Magic, people. We've normalized the creation of intelligence. And it's dangerous that we're doing this normalization of it, because when something feels normal, it doesn't feel urgent. This is a revolution that's moving at a speed and scale that's going to reshape labor, politics, warfare, education. It's going to reshape the nature of truth itself. So when I watch that silly Mr. Rogers video, I'm in awe, just absolute awe, but followed by fear. Fear that some percentage of people that watch that video think that it's real. Because if I showed you that video a year ago, you would have been like, wow, I missed that time when Mr. Rogers showed up on WWF, I guess. Because it never would have occurred to you that it was AI generated. And I also have fear that there are other videos that are going to be produced by this that are even more convincing. And then fear that the next iteration of Sora will produce even more real-looking videos. And that those videos could be used to commit fraud, to trick people, or to launch wars. We don't know. So I think that we are basically at a point where we are quickly losing our ability to shape society, that we're outsourcing this to machine learning, artificial intelligence, and that we might soon lose our ability to exercise free will. This is the stuff I think about at night, folks. So, Jim, I darkened your doorway the other day and pestered you about this idea of radical normalization. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, as we talked about it in my office, that's when you came in and showed me the Fred Rogers WWE Raw appearance, right. And the first things I noticed, and which we talked about, is that 6 months ago, this wasn't possible. AI was not making hands correctly. They weren't, people's faces would move and it would seem to be like rubber and move a little bit here. And it just seems so obviously fake. And this, you look at it and it's obvious that it's not Mr. Rogers, but it is so much better than it was just a year ago or even 6 months ago. And in fact, again, it absolutely are pretty much free to type that prompt in and to create something like that is better than some of the CGI in $300 million movies coming out of Hollywood. So if you're in the special effects, digital effects business in Hollywood, I guess you need to learn to code, or you need to learn to do something else, because maybe drive Uber. Nope, that's going to be taken away from you too. Automated stuff. So so it's this idea that those graphics, again, that anybody could do that just with having the right tool and typing in a prompt and waiting just literally a few minutes instead of many hours of hard work, painstaking digital special effects artists on computers working for days and days and weeks on end. Basically that special effect, that magic is not that much different than a lot of CGI that we see in some of the big Hollywood blockbusters. So that to me is one of the most amazing things, and that it just keeps getting better, and it keeps getting better faster. You keep waiting for there to maybe hit a roadblock, or maybe there's a lull in the advancement of the ability of AI to keep improving such things, and it goes faster. AI is a favorite topic of yours, Donnie. When you were the full-time host on this program, we talked about it quite a bit, maybe every other one show every other month on it. And so we've been talking about this for years. And if you go back and look at some of the old videos or old podcasts where we talked about AI, we talked about it as it existed at that time, and then tried to predict in the future what it would be like. It's a completely different world today than it was just 2 years ago when it comes to AI and AI video. I mean, we did it. Yeah, I remember. That's right. We did a whole episode, and we started by playing. I think it was the same program, right? Is that Sora? You said when it first came out, and it had this view of a Japanese woman walking down the street, and it looked like a real thing, and that was a couple of years ago, and that was like, well, gosh, that must be expensive technology. Now everybody has it, not just at their fingertips on a computer, on their phone, which we're going to be going over here very soon. It's just it's mind blowing, and the you touched upon some of the dangers of this, is because, especially as one of our commenters says, exercising one's critical thinking skills get diminished. You become more susceptible to falling for basically the ultimate deepfake, because voices are now almost indistinguishable between AI and real. I tried to didn't try to fool, but I remember using a year and a half ago, I used a tool to try to mimic my voice. It was close. It was in the neighborhood, but it was pretty obvious to everybody that wasn't really me. If I was to do it today, it'd be a lot more difficult to tell that it was not me. And so when you add in the ability of AI to create completely fake and fabricated videos, and the ability to do that more realistically, literally month to month, with the ability of AI to mimic, to create audio that mimics people's actual voices, that's opening up some pretty dangerous avenues, I think.
Yeah, and this isn't even like the craziest stuff too. Like this there I can go down. Oh gosh, Andy, you're gonna have to help me out. It's like a Google tool. It's not necessarily just their video one. It's like Google Worlds or something like that, or Scapes or something, where it's like they're gonna be able to generate.
3.
Is that what it is? Genie 3? Yeah. Okay. It's like they're gonna be able to generate like video games on the fly. Like, it's some of the tech out there is so mind-blowing. It's really hard to wrap your head around it, which I think is actually contributing to that like normalization thing, where it's like, I fully don't understand the implications of this, so I'm just going to move on with my life. Yeah, so the video here is actually, you can control it. You see the little the arrow keys on the bottom left there. This person is actually controlling this little thing that's like in this one, it's like a little, I don't know, a boat or something like that. But what is actually happening, this is not a program. This is not a video game program that's been pre-programmed by a bunch of developers or something. This is actually a quick succession generating the next frame of the video using generative AI on the fly to mimic you controlling it. So it's so next generation. Like I said, if this technology was like a part of a movie plot a couple of years ago, we would have scoffed at it. Like, well, that's not realistic. Let's move. let's turn this off and find something more real. But
yeah, I mean, you can see the prompt here as Andy's playing this game as it is. The prompt is walking on a pavement in Florida next to a 2-lane road, from one side the sea from one side and the sea on the other, during an approaching hurricane.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I remember when CGI in movies, one of the big challenges was doing water and doing hair. It wasn't realistic. Look at this.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not quite there, but gosh.
I mean, that would have fooled anybody a month ago.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this?
Yeah, thanks. The big concern that we've been talking about here is the idea that people will believe things that are made up, that aren't true. I think that there's the other side of it, though, is that as this becomes normal, as you talked about it being normalized, Donald, as this becomes normal, it is going to increase, I think, skepticism and doubt. Mm-hmm. And that is an interesting thing, because one of the important elements of a free society is that there be high trust, that people know that if they move in somewhere, that they'll be protected from weird things that their neighbors might do. They'll be protected from force and fraud and the like. And if you make a trade with someone, you buy something from someone, if it's defective, you have some recourse, so that you can trust other people to make deals with you, and you can trust other people to write things or create things that you will enjoy and take some pleasure in and maybe learn something from. What we're developing now is a system in which no one will be able to trust anything. And I think that the use of AI in education is a fascinating testing point for this, because it does have that dubious nature to it, that it's outside of human control. That, I think that's a key element of it, is that all these things are outside of human control, except in the sense that somebody says a prompt and this is what I would like to do, and then somebody down the road is going to use it in another way. So I think that what this could do is very much erode trust in the society. I'm not saying that that's a good or bad thing. There are probably some great advantages to eroding trust. However, there are certainly, in fact, advantages to that. However, it will have very, very big consequences. And I think that that's one of them that we really need to be conscious of, is how it's going to change human relationships across the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I probably said this before on there, but like, that old thing where it's like, believe nothing of what you hear, only half of what you see. It's like, I mean, we gotta mark that down a little bit. It's like, and the worst part about that too is like, there's gonna be a video that comes out, and people are gonna say, even if it's real, I don't believe it's real. That doesn't fit my worldview. I think it's fake, and then move on with their lives. And then other people that will see a fake video and say, I believe it's real. That fits in my worldview, and then move on with their lives. So this is going to have like an even more of a kind of like separation of reality, where people are kind of living in their own universes, because people are just kind of choosing what to believe based on their currently held beliefs. It's going to be,
and those choices are going to be manipulated by machines.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And depending on, what algorithm that tries to keep you engaged on what platform is deciding what little snippets you're going to see. Right. All right, let's play a game here, folks. I think it's time to play a game that we are going to be dubbing, Is It Real or Is It AI?
In a world where anything can be faked, can you spot the truth? Tonight, it's man versus machine, instinct versus algorithm. One image, one voice, one chance to call it. Is it the real deal or a clever creation? Get ready to decide.
That is right. Real or AI. So I would really love to like build this out to be like a full-on game with categories and levels and all of that stuff, and like a scoring system. But we're gonna have to put some thought into that. We're going a little off the fly here, despite that really awesome looking graphic that Andy shared there. So first, well, I've actually found a website that's going to be like a cool little choose if it's real or choose if it's fake sort of a thing. But before we do that, we do have a couple of like fun videos. So Andy, let's hear from Billy Mays.
Hi, Billy Mays here with the ultimate collection you've been asking for. Every single one of my classic infomercials, all in one gigantic DVD box set. That's right.
It's fake, 100% fake. The background's fake. Billy Mays is fake. His beard is fake. And the DVD box set that he's holding is fake. That's all AI generated.
And his voice, Billy Mays is a Pittsburgh legend, baby. And I'm from Pittsburgh. And so if you close your eyes and listen, that is Billy Mays, man. That is Billy Mays. Rest in peace.
That's amazing. Right. Yeah. There was a video that I saw of people using these like anti-gravity shoes, and I wasn't sure if it was like an illusion that they were pulling off on this little like show runway sort of a thing, or if it was completely AI. I had to Google it, and it was fake. So like it's enough to trick me. I think I can discern maybe 99.5% of the time, but there's still that 0.5% of the time where I'm just not sure, folks. That's how good it is. And I feel like I'm pretty aware of what's possible and what's not. Jim, you've got a couple of videos that you want to share that's in the good old cat realm. So
Well,
why don't
yeah,
you
I
set
mean,
this part up?
I'll share them. I'll share them in order. Actually, I want you guys to. I have a lot of pictures too, and so we can get into that. So first of all, so everyone loves cat videos. So some of what I'm going to show you is real, and some of it is not. And I want you guys to guess which is which. I will play it again. Is this a real video or is this an AI?
What do you think, Sam?
I'm going to say AI, and I have no reason for saying this.
Catherine
Absolutely
Burke says
guessing.
real. Catherine Burke says real. K1 says fake. I mean, look at this again. Look, watch the eye of the fella. Watch his skin. This has to, look at that. His skin moves exactly how it's supposed to when you're getting petted.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. I'm going to show all three of these actually, and then real in quick succession. So here's another one. Here's another cat video. Aw. Kitty.
I say that's real.
Is that real or is that AI? All right. One more time, I'll have a look at it, and then I'm going to show you a third video.
All right, yeah. So in the comments, people put number 1 what you think it is, number 2 what you think it is, and number 3 what you think it
Right.
is.
Okay. So here's another cat video. We'll show this one here. Aw. That's my cat Frankie.
Someone says that's Jim's cat.
That's my kitty Frankie. That's right. He was at my feet a second ago. That is Jim's cat. Correct. All right. So
I'm going to say AI.
You're going to say AI for this one?
Yes.
Okay. One more time. This one here.
Now, before Jim reveals this, can everyone at least admit to themselves that this isn't like, 100% it's AI. 100% it's real. Like, you are making a judgment call. Like, let's be honest here, folks.
Right. It's a 50-50 guess, right? All right. And then this one before that we had seen. Okay, look at that. Kitty. All right. So your answers are... This is AI. And this was prompted by AI Grok based on that photograph. I took a picture of Frankie the other day, taking a nap. It was a still photograph, and Grok's new video generating program put him in motion. I prompted.
Oh.
I said, have him wake up and be in a good mood, and that's what it did.
That's incredible.
Gave me a 6-second video.
That is incredible.
This video is real. I took that. I took that yesterday. When I went up to bed. That's Mango, my other cat. He was, she was very happy to see me and wanted some pets before I fell asleep, and so she got some pets. But this is pretty indistinguishable from this, which is AI. And again, this was prompted from this photo. So the first frame, this was a photograph, and I asked it to. I don't remember the prompt. It wasn't anything specific. It just said, it just animated it to do this. I mean, look at the way his face moves when he's being hit by the cat's paw. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. It's even the pressure of the thing is perfect. I couldn't believe it.
But you know what, Jim? You know what made me think it was fake was that when it touched his face, when the cat touched his face, he didn't react. His face reacted, his flesh reacted, but he didn't react.
Right.
In a way that was normal to me.
Yeah. But again, just the level, it's not like, well, he's clearly got 12 fingers, like that's
right. Right.
6
months ago, he's got webbed hand or something, right? And instead it's perfect. Do we have time to do my photographs? It'll be even faster. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
But then I'm going to challenge you after this, Jim.
Okay. So here I'm going to start loading up a series of pictures here into the background. Let me try. I'll bring the first two up, and then we can take it from there. Okay. So So this is a photograph, but I want you guys to tell me if this is a real one or is this generated by AI. I'm going to. This is another photograph. Is this real or is this artificial intelligence of a photograph?
So one of these is real, one of these is fake of Trump?
Right. One of these is real, one of these is fake.
Man.
I'd say this one's fake and the second one's real.
I'm going to go with that as well, but honestly, I'm flipping a coin.
This you're saying, whoops, you're saying this one is real and this one is fake?
Correct.
Wrong. This one is real and that one is fake. Isn't that amazing?
Okay. All right.
Andy, yeah, good job. Good job back there, Andy. Says boom, Andy for the win. All right. Let's keep going with this. Is it real or AI? Let's see. These are not. I'm just going to load these things up here. Here's one. Patience with me. I'll load up others while we put this up. So have a look at this one. We all know who that is. That's Gavin Newsom.
Well, he's the lizard person at baseline. So if he
right. So you have to zoom in on his eyes and see if his irises are vertical. That's correct. So we can see that. All right. We also have. Let me just try these two pictures. Okay. So this. Oops. That's Gavin Newsom, of course. Being sworn in his latest thing. And here's a picture of people might recognize him. That's Mr. Glenn Beck, a very prominent public speaker. So we'll just go with these two. And then we have a third photograph here. This is Abe Lincoln playing baseball.
If that one's real, then that's a fantastic photo.
Yeah, that's obviously fake. I wanted to have something that was obviously AI, and I said I want Abe Lincoln playing baseball, and that's what came up. It's actually pretty cool. It's not a real stovepipe hat. I should have prompted it better. So that's definitely AI, but it's kind of fun. So we'll just take these two photographs. This is Gavin Newsom, and this is Glenn Beck. So are these real, fake, or both real?
Sam, what do you think?
The way it looks to me is that number one is real and number two is fake. So what I know.
So I wanted him to ask or answer first because I saw a clip of Glenn doing a presentation at like a Turning Point USA thing, and he was wearing the Freedom shirt. So based on that alone, I'm going to go with this being real and the Gavin Newsom one being fake.
Well, they could both be real.
I'm still sticking with what I
say. Okay. Well, for the people in the chat, this is Gavin Newsom. This is fake. I asked. Gavin Newsom is fake. I put a prompt. I said, make me a realistic photo of Gavin Newsom being sworn in. That looks pretty freaking real to me. And again, yes, this is real, not fake. It's too bad that you kind of cheated there, Donnie, because you knew the answer. But I actually thought this was a pretty fake looking photo, which is why I picked it to fool you guys.
Right.
All right. Just real quick, I think we're having fun with this game. We might have to make this a regular thing. All right.
That's what I mean. It should be a segment, a reoccurring segment.
It will be a reoccurring segment. Okay. Now these are. Oops. Oh, okay. Sorry. Let's get rid of that one. My apologies. Okay. And so one last photograph. Okay.
Oh gosh. That one I'm going fake. That her cheeks look a little waxy, unless this is like a wax. Are you tricking us? And this is actually like a wax figure or something. It's a real picture of a wax figure. Is my final answer. No, I'm going fake on this one.
I agree with Donald.
Okay, yes, this is fake. I had a real one to compare with it, and I forgot to upload it. Now that unfortunately
was real.
That was real.
That unfortunately is real.
AI can't replicate that cackle. They can't do it. It's
not yet. Once
the servers.
Once AI can do that, we're all doomed. So just to recap, this is fake. Looks very real. That's real. This is obviously fake, but fun. That is fake. It looks just like him. And then a lot of people got this one wrong because this one is fake and this one is real.
Yeah, and another thing to point out too is because it's like, oh yeah, well we could have generated fake looking photos for decades or whatever using CGI or Photoshop and all of those things, and it's true. But now the bar is so much lower. Like Jim is literally going on to Grok on Twitter and asking it to generate something. He doesn't need training in
No.
software or access to tools and all of this stuff. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to type in, generate a realistic picture of Trump standing in front of a crowd. Boom. 5 seconds later, that pops up. So
Yeah.
it's like just how the barrier to entry to generating fake images and fake videos is just getting lower and lower by the day.
This video of Frankie from a still photograph took Grok literally 45 seconds to make
Right.
this for me. 45
Right.
seconds to make this into a video, a still photograph.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's ridiculous.
All right. Did we run this into the ground? Do we want to do any other ones? Should we move on to the main topic here? We're already like 55 minutes in. Maybe we'll save some of the other stuff into a future episode of is it real or is it AI? But I think it's fun, and I think anyone that's like, see, I aced that, you're deluding yourself. You are tricking yourself. Don't believe it. This is way beyond just being able to know, like, clear as day. Oh, yeah, that's real. That's fake. Nobody can be that confident.
Well, I mean, somebody Albert points out in there, or I'm sorry, somebody. Oh yeah, it is I too says the video from a photo is insane.
Yeah,
Donnie, remember those fake fight videos where they would just have, and like you would have two people in a photograph and then suddenly they would fight and it looked absurd and ridiculous.
Yes. Right.
I bet it doesn't look so absurd and ridiculous now. I bet it looks like a real fight. You might even have teeth and blood coming out of somebody's mouth when they're punched in the face. But they were taking a photo and making a video out of it was, obviously fake and kind of dumb, but it was kind of fun. Now you can do that like I just did with my cat. It looks completely realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just remember when we were all talking about deep fakes, several months ago, maybe a year ago. And it's like, even with deep fakes, you need some technical know-how, how to like figure it, do it and have the right software and all of that sort of stuff. Like now you just need one still image. Before, when deepfakes first got on the scene, you had to have 1 million photos of a person. If you're going to deepfake some specific person, 1 million photos from all different angles with all different lightings, and then a computer can like synthesize all of that stuff and create a 3D model of it. Now, one photo of a cat, and you can have that cat do whatever you want it to do. One photo. So yeah, it's just a whole new realm that we're in. And again, it's only been months. This is the timeline of these things are months.
Yep.
That's the scariest part about it. So, all right, let's move on to our main topic now that we're an hour into the podcast here. So, like I said, AI revolution moving at breakneck. Makers out there that are trying to stay ahead of it. But, even I would admit that, despite seeing the train barreling down the track, it's very difficult to know what is going to happen in the next few years. So, there's concerns about manipulation from big tech, job disruption caused by AI and advanced robotics. There's even concerns about kind of transhumanist things, people plugging in a Neuralink into their head and, integrating themselves with AI. Sounds crazy, but Elon Musk is literally doing that right now. This isn't science fiction. Well, it appears as though Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is planning something that is being called right now the AI Bill of Rights. So there are very few details of what this is going to be composed of. But we do have a couple of videos of Ron DeSantis talking about this idea, kind of teasing this idea of an AI Bill of Rights that have just come out of the last several days. So let's go ahead and play some big Ron DeSantis videos here.
The thing we're working on that I think is important, this is a huge conversation. I'm not going to go in depth. I think we need to recognize that there's a lot of changes afoot in society with respect to artificial intelligence. I welcome technologies that will enhance the human experience. I do not welcome things that are going to supplant the human experience. We can't rely on machines to totally take away our responsibility to think for ourselves. And so we are working on an artificial intelligence individual Bill of Rights so that you have the protections against some of these technologies if they run amok. I understand we're in a new world. I understand there's things changing, but I want to be governed by we the people. I do not want to be governed by a handful of oligarchs in Silicon Valley. And we're going to make sure we get that done.
Yeah, I think we have one more video. Let's go ahead and just play that one too.
Big tech companies have the ability to be in charge of a lot of this data, and they're doing all this, well, guess what? They are going to abuse that power. So I think it's up to us as people that are policymakers to make sure that we're going into all this with our eyes wide open. I think that we need to do artificial intelligence Bill of Rights for individuals so that you have protections against having your rights violated. I mean, think about it. They're going to be able to do a video where they can take your name or take your image and put words in your mouth that people very well may believe. Well, what if that's done in a way that's harming you? I'm sorry, that's not a First Amendment issue. That's a taking your name, image, and likeness issue. So nobody's really talking about it. People are saying, oh, it's basically, everyone's going to be wealthy, all this other stuff. Well, some of these companies may be. And actually, some of them are saying, oh, this is going to somehow be so great. And they're bragging that it's going to cost millions of people their jobs. I don't think that's great if people are losing jobs. So they think that this is somehow going to, deliver us into some type of domestic nirvana, but it's probably much more likely, to plunge us into some type of dystopian technocracy. And these are things that are happening right now. There's not a lot of debate about any of this stuff, but this is going to continue to be a major, major issue. And I can just tell you, the folks that are pushing this and a handful of those companies do not think like you think on any of these different issues. And with that, I know we're going to do some question and answer, so just let me.
All right, folks. That was 2 videos of Ron DeSantis talking about the AI Bill of Rights. Which one was real? I tricked all of you. This is an extension of the game of real or fake. There was 2 videos. Which one's real? Nah, I'm just kidding. They're both real. But you thought for a second that one of those was fake. I know someone was typing in there, oh, the first one was clearly fake. Nah, that's not true. They're both real. But yeah, so there is, right now we're in speculation. I actually was just reached out to in the past couple of days by a colleague, or not even a colleague, a source, I don't know what you want to call it, that was basically asking me if I knew anything about this proposed AI Bill of Rights thing that Ron DeSantis was going to be coming out with. I said I didn't, but I'm going to look into it. So there's very little actual detail of what this is going to be comprised of. But there is some things out there after doing a bunch of research that, we can kind of make some educated guesses as to what it's going to be based on some of what he had to say in those videos and based on some of the things that he said about other legislation. So in June of this year, DeSantis signed into law the what's called Brooks Law, which targeted AI-generated deepfakes. So I'm assuming that this AI Bill of Rights is going to kind of go further in that direction. Again, deepfakes is kind of like a very limited kind of interpretation of certain technologies. Like we saw with the Sora thing, it's going to get way bigger than just deepfake stuff. So I'm assuming that there's going to be a little bit more of a crackdown on kind of licensed use or use without permission of people's likeness rights. Faster removal of non-consensual altered images. The current law requires social media platforms to remove these things with no permission, AI altered images, within 48 hours of a valid request. I assume similar things protections will be kind of broadened out to include some of these AI videos or just AI photos of people without their permission. Consequences for platforms. This is also part of the Brooks Law thing. So this new thing might include expanding the scope to hold tech companies accountable through the Florida Deception and Unfair Trade Practices Act if they do not make a good faith effort to remove some of this content. Disclaimers for AI-generated political ads. Building on existing laws, the proposal may require disclaimers on political ads. This is something that has been going around a while. There's a lot of states that are proposing stuff like this. So if it's part of this AI Bill of Rights thing, it wouldn't surprise me at all. In the category of guardrails against big tech and government overreach, this might be like the most substantial part of it. But again, we don't know the details, so we'll see. DeSantis has repeatedly expressed wariness of big tech. He said as much in those videos that we just played. And he's already signed the Digital Bill of Rights back in 2023, which suggests that his AI policy could contain similar protections. So that Digital Bill of Rights included stuff that regards to regulation of algorithms. That he could expand the current law, which would require search engines to disclose whether they prioritize results based on political ideology. Protection against censorship. Building on the existing digital law, DeSantis' AI legislation could likely prevent government entities from colluding with tech companies to censor protected speech. I think that would be probably a big one. Restrictions on government use of AI. State legislation was recently introduced in Florida to restrict government agencies from using AI to detect concealed firearms in public spaces. DeSantis could support or expand on such prohibitions to limit AI surveillance by state agencies. That would, I think, fall pretty squarely under this label of the AI Bill of Rights. He's also talked about job displacement and economic impact. This one is a little bit more difficult. And I'll give that disclaimer towards the end. But DeSantis has voiced concerns over AI's potential to displace work, whether white collar work or even, I don't know, whatever in that category. So it could lead to the inclusion of responsible integration to workplace regulations, where he might want to ensure that AI is used to aid and not replace human employees. I don't exactly know how this would look or what the language of this would be, and even I would be a little bit kind of weary of stuff like this. But it says, for example, he has allowed funding for some AI programs in Florida colleges while vetoing others. Energy costs of AI. DeSantis has also criticized the massive thirst for energy from these trading data centers and all of that. So he suggests that some people suggest that taxpayers and ratepayers should not be on the hook to foot the bill for this. So I don't know if that's going to be part of it. It's possible. And then there's a bunch of other things that we can kind of throw in as just like a basket of miscellaneous, whether it's trying to crack down on manipulation and false narratives that are, promoted by kind of these big tech, that we've seen through like the big tech censorship era of social media, that sort of thing. Impact on education, just kind of circling back to the debate that I had at the Moms for Liberty thing. There's plenty of stuff that could potentially be done in the realm of education. And finally, fraud and crime that DeSantis obviously believes that AI could be used to steal from people, to scam people, and obviously bring on new challenges for law enforcement. So if there's some potential regulations or guidelines that could be put into this that addresses that, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But the biggest problem from me, or for me, I guess, from like the regulatory standpoint, is that we don't exactly know what the future of AI is going to look like. Like even a couple of years ago, if someone said, "Oh yeah, by October of 2025, we're going to have Sora videos that look almost identical to reality," some people are like, "No, that's way off. That'll happen a lot later." So we don't know how all of this stuff is going to come out. So regulating theoreticals is very difficult, and the ultimate goal of DeSantis, I assume here, is to kind of walk this hazy fine line between trying to ward off any impending negative effects of the AI revolution while also simultaneously not pruning off the limbs that could someday bear the biggest fruits for society. So it's a real tough fine line to walk, but looks like he's going to be trying to do it. So I think that there are huge implications on both sides of this. Over-regulating versus not doing anything. There's got to be some middle ground. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to look like. Those are kind of my guesses as to what DeSantis might be looking to include in his AI Bill of Rights. I do have a couple of sources on my for myself that are looking out there and seeing if there's any stuff on paper. I don't know, how public I'd be able to share that stuff if and when I get access to any of it. But Florida also kind of has a reputation for being like a kind of a nice ground zero from really hard hitting public policy at the state level that a lot of other states, will try to replicate. So if we get it right in Florida or get it wrong in Florida, it could have major implications one way or the other. Sam, I'm going to go to you first on this one. What are your thoughts on this kind of this hazy idea of an?
I think first of all that this is the right place to do it. It should be done on the state level. States have under our Constitution, they have police powers, and that's really what this is all about. My preference is always that regulation be done more through the courts and the tort system than through rules and government stopping people from doing things in advance. That's the kind of the equivalent of guilty until proven innocent. That you're prevented from say building a house because, well, you might defraud somebody if this house doesn't have all these specific things that we decide have to be in such a house. So I think that this is right, that it's on the state level, and that was something that was allowed under Section 230 of the Communications Act when the internet was first growing, but the states didn't do it. The states simply were under the impression that everything was going to be fabulous and it was going to be a world of freedom and joy, and it didn't turn out that way. And so I think that what states need to do to get to the bottom line is they just need to allow causes of action and specify them for when people when they feel they've been defrauded or they've been cheated in some way, and they can take the perpetrators to court for that. We had that happen in Florida during the COVID era, where they started to develop a cause of action for people to sue social media when they were censored and so forth. So we can states can move in that direction, and I think that would be a very, very wise way to go. It's the lightest possible touch you can have while still ensuring that people's lives, liberty, and property are protected from fraud and coercion. So I think that this is, I'm actually rather heartened that DeSantis and other people in Florida are looking to, sort of make some rules here. But I would like to see them, as I say, decentralize it by concentrating on allowing people to use the tort system to correct for problems, rather than just saying up front, you cannot do A, B, or C, or you have to do E, F, and G in order to do A, B, and C. That doesn't work. And it certainly should not be done on the federal level.
Yeah, Jim, I'm curious of your take. I mean, I've got some some thoughts on, what could and maybe should be included in some AI Bill of Rights thing that relate to like limitations on AI decision making. Like, I actually heard from a bunch of people at this Moms for Liberty conference that are in these different industries talking about how like insurance companies use AI and algorithms to reject claims. Like, a human is not even involved in the process. It's just like somebody, submits their claim through some digital portal, and some algorithm decides whether or not whether or not they're going to cover it one way or the other. So, this could relate to healthcare decisions. This could relate to car insurance, home insurance decisions, even automated like sentencing in courts. There's AI systems that'll use court precedent to decide, how long sentences should be, that sort of thing. So I don't know, maybe is it a radical idea to say, maybe a human should be involved in some of these things? Like that's one. The idea of objectivity and neutrality, again, this kind of based off of our experience doing the big tech censorship thing. Like, maybe there should be some inclusion of no government or corporate entity may use AI to suppress lawful expression under the guise of safety of misinformation. Is that too crazy? Is that too crazy? Or when it comes to privacy or data ownership, transparency is always best, right? So how about transparency when it comes to data that's being collected on you? How about explicit consent when it comes to the use or sale of your data? How about restrictions on the state when it comes to centralizing like data identity systems, so that maybe we can avoid some social credit score sort of a thing? And then the last thing that I've got for you before I let you kind of,
I can't remember all of that, but go ahead.
Well, whatever. You're nodding along, so I'm assuming there's some implicit agreement here. But constitutional principles, this is my biggest one. So that AI may not be used by the state to circumvent due process, the presumption of innocence, or free expression. The citizens should be protected from automated censorship or reputation scoring, social credit scoring, by public-private partnerships, that old World Economic Forum term, and ensure that AI operates under the same constitutional boundaries as any government agent. Those are all things that I could probably, be convinced of putting in some AI Bill of Rights. But what's your take on this? Because, like I said, there's a fine line between over-regulating something and destroying an industry that's booming, that's growing, and then kind of allowing ourselves to be susceptible to a lot of the same drawbacks that we were met when it came to the social media revolution. So what are your thoughts here?
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there, as they say, Donnie. I don't remember all the stuff you said. I didn't.
You got 10 seconds, Jim.
Excellent. No, I mean, I don't disagree with a lot of what you said there. And those are very, even if we don't know the correct answer just yet, those are a lot of important things to consider moving forward. And the bias always must be on the autonomy of the individual and the ownership of their lives, and not having it exploited by others. That is, that's a basic libertarian principle, is that, you mind your business, I mind mine. And as long as your business doesn't interfere with my business or harm me financially or physically in any way, then live and let live, right? But just getting to the insurance part of it, having an insurance agent use AI to deny benefits or claims. I've had family members in the insurance business. The insurance industry is in the business of denying claims, denying as much as possible that is legally done. But a lot of what you described there, Donnie, still depends ultimately on a human being making the final decision. AI can be used as a tool. You can ask AI, should this person's car insurance be higher than this other guy's car insurance because guy number one lives in a neighborhood with a crime rate 8 times higher than this other guy. And in fact, one of the most common crimes in guy number one's neighborhood is auto theft. So yes, human beings figure that out as it is right now, and that work in insurance companies and do charge the person number one who lives in a high crime area more for their auto insurance than somebody who lives in a safer area. I mean, that's just common sense, and that's how insurance companies operate. You wouldn't necessarily need AI to figure that out for you. You can look up, you can do it the old-fashioned way. You can look up crime statistics and index them towards zip codes, and you got yourself a pretty good baseline for what to charge for auto insurance across the country. What Ron DeSantis was talking about, and a lot of people in our chat, thank you again, everyone, for being in there. So many interesting ideas and questions and comments in there. But Ron DeSantis is onto something, and I don't necessarily agree with Sam that it should be done on a state-to-state basis. Our digital life is global. It shouldn't just protect Floridians, or if you happen to be in Florida and have your data stolen or have your image used in improper ways. But if you live in Georgia, it's fine for somebody to do that to you. That seems kind of silly to me. We do have to be careful about how we go about this, and it has to be based on constitutional principles and individual rights. That's what this whole debate really comes down to, is being sure to protect an individual's rights. As you were talking there, Donnie, and I was looking at the comments, and as Ron DeSantis said, should somebody be able to use your image and have you do something that you didn't do or say something that you never said. And should that just be fine? No, it shouldn't be fine. That is not a violation of the First Amendment for me to be upset or want it to be a crime, perhaps, or at least a tort, so I can sue that person if they take a photograph of me that is on my Facebook page and then create a talking head video in which I say vile, racist things in an attempt to destroy my reputation. That should not be allowed. And then you kind of counter that, and this is so easily done right now, actually. And my face is on this podcast twice a week on this channel for years. There's lots of material you can get. In fact, you could even get things I've said, take all the words out of order. You could probably take you an afternoon to do that with a free AI video generating software, and have me say things that I never said. Should people be allowed to do that? I don't know. I don't think so. And you, especially when somebody is like necessarily a private citizen, if you watched any of the we've all seen lots of videos on social media about the No Kings demonstrations over the weekend. And when you demonstrate, or you're in a public place, if you're on a public street, or if you're demonstrating, somebody filming you and then distributing that's fair use. That's free use. You're in a public space. So that's fair. And you would presumably accurate. Like, we saw a lot of these interviews of people very, very hateful toward Charlie Kirk at these No Kings rallies, and all sorts of crazy things people said. That wasn't distorted, that it was what they actually said. Should you be able to take that video then and then distort it so that it looks very, very real, and it actually trigger somebody? Yeah, I remember seeing that video of that lady standing there just like that. I guess this was the other part of the video that we didn't see yet until now. There's a whole box of horribles when it comes to the use of AI to defame people, to fool people, to trick people. And there needs to be a serious discussion very soon on Sam, I know we don't like regulation. We don't like federal regulation. Maybe you have to sue for it, but it seems rather problematic that, like, right now, this afternoon, somebody could take video of me dressed like this right in here, saying and doing things that I never said, in an attempt to harm myself or the Heartland Institute or anybody else. And the lie would be out there, and it would never be corrected. No matter what I said, I would never be able to correct it. There'd be a certain number of people who would believe horrible things about me that is extremely defamatory. And it's just very, very easy to do. So I think these discussions are important to have. I don't even know necessarily what the correct answer is, but it should start with the protection of our data, the stopping the exploitation of our digital life and our digital footprint and our data for the profit and benefit of others. There's a lot of stuff about, as Donnie, you said it in the beginning of this. I'm going to wrap up right here. Donnie, you said it in the beginning of this podcast. So many things are happening so fast, we can't even get our heads around what's going on. And I think we're still in that world, and it keeps accelerating. I mean, something as simple as, do I own my data? Does it really belong to me? Is Facebook allowed to monetize me? Well, you didn't read all the way through those, 20,000 word terms of service, but you agree to it, buddy. There's a lot of stuff that's happening that isn't necessarily ethical. And we're still trying to wrap our heads around what to do about it.
Well,
those are all good points. I just want to get one thing in here, which is that the problem that you had just identified, Jim, is that you don't have any recourse when somebody does something like what you described, and that's why doing these things, making them justiciable on the state level, would be really helpful. Because you would have a recourse, you would have somewhere that you could go, and specifically access to the courts is a very useful thing. And we've sort of gotten away from that and decided that courts would be used to set public policy and not just to right wrongs that people do to one another. So that is really important. And the other side of it is that instead of having a national law, we have history in this country where states would create laws and rules that affected people, and industries would respond by cooperating so that they would get a nationwide agreement within the industry. The government didn't even, the federal government didn't have anything to do with it, but they would have an agreement within the industry. And a perfect example would be the movie industry. They during the 1920s, they were very concerned about censorship and very worried because states had different levels of censorship. So what the movies did was they created what was called the Hays Code, and the Motion Picture Association imposed this on the studios, and it worked. It was very effective, and in fact, the movies were made better, I think, in terms of quality, and I think most film historians would agree with that. And so what you can do is, as you do things on the state level, you make it incumbent upon national level or international corporations to find a way to do things right. So you don't need to have the federal government do this, and I would be very, very reluctant to have them get involved. Let's make sure that we give people access, some recourse to solve their problems with one another, and then have the industry find itself wanting to get things right because states are pushing them in that direction. You get 10 big states that are 40% of the population of the United States on your side on this. They have to listen.
Yeah, Donnie, you're muted. You just pulled a Jim. There you go. Well done.
Oh, that was an AI trick. There's been a lot of great comments coming in, but there was one that I want to address before we wrap up the show. That from Tech, I believe, that was talking about how the idea of like withholding due process is already illegal. But as like technology advances, we kind of have to like re-bolster some of these like things, because the way that like the government talks about them often changes. And there was one example, I'm gonna get the details horribly wrong because this is me trying to go back to like my high school activist days memory. But it was like I think it was either like Patriot Act or maybe something to do with FISA or whatnot. But it was basically like mass email and phone records collection from the federal government. And there was a lot of challenges on that, saying like, well, the government can't do that. It can't just collect all this information on people without a warrant. But it was okayed because there was no human actually looking at it. That this was all just like an automated process, and there was no actual human directly reviewing it. So you could imagine how these things, you could have whole decisions, whole cases made against somebody using artificial intelligence, and that's not a real person. So it's not necessarily an infringement on your due process or whatever until a human gets involved. So I think some of these things have to be like reframed and reestablished with kind of modern technology in place. But we're already an hour and a half into this episode.
Well, hold on, honey.
Uh-oh.
I know you're not a usual host of this show, so you forgot that we have an ad read in here.
Oh, great.
So we can do that now. And you know what? I was just saying this with Andy. We were chatting in the private chat, and it's like, I think it's a pretty good sign when a member of our audience in the chat wonders if we're going to do our ad read. So that means we're having an impact with it. And our advertiser on this program is our friends over at Advisor Metals. So, if you listen to a lot of conservative shows like I do, you hear tons of pitches for buying gold, silver, and other precious metals. There are a ton of companies out there that are trying to get you to work with them to buy precious metals. But we want to tell you why you should trust the sponsor of this program and the Heartland Institute, and that is Advisor Metals. And it's because of the man who runs the company, Ira Brashatsky. He's the managing member of Advisor Metals, and he does not employ those high-pressure tactics and deceptive marketing ploys like you see from many in big gold. He also doesn't deal in so-called rare coins. When you buy gold and other precious metals from Advisor Metals, you're dealing in quality bullion, and that is so much better when the time comes to liquidate this very valuable physical asset. And in fact, that asset has gone up. Gold has, since Advisor Metals started advertising on this program. So when you buy from Advisor Metals, by the way, you will have your investment sent discreetly to your home, so you physically own it. And Ira, I must point out, is advertising on this program because he is an America First patriot. He does not donate to Democrats. He refuses to work with the proxies of the Chinese Communist Party, and he abhors the machinations of international cabals like the World Economic Forum. And we are very proud to have him as a sponsor. So you want to diversify your portfolio, if you want to back up your IRA with real physical bullion of precious metals, please go to climaterealismshow.com/metals. That's our Friday show, but that's the website you must go to, climaterealismshow.com/metals. You can leave your information there, and Ira or someone on his team will be in contact with you to make the whole process extremely easy. climaterealismshow.com/metals, and be sure to tell them that we sent you, because that helps this program while you're helping your financial future.
So as soon as I stop hosting the show, you guys get sponsors. Got it. As soon as Linnea is in the chair, you guys get sponsors. Understood.
No, understand? It speaks for itself. Just one last thing, but because I meant to mention this before, so many great ideas in the comments in the chat. Thanks so much for everything. But the idea of somehow making it mandatory that AI videos must be labeled as AI videos somehow, a watermark or something like that. I'm not quite sure what to think about that. I have to think about it some more. Do you guys think that's a good idea? I'm sure you guys would not be in favor of a federal law mandating that an AI video must be labeled AI video from now until the end of time, or else you go to jail. But
yeah, no, I think it's a Band-Aid. I mean, like the Sora things, it'll have that little watermark that says Sora on it, but it took people 5 seconds to obscure that, or use AI to remove it, or any number of kind of patchworks end arounds to that. So yeah, it's like putting up a gate in the middle of a field and just like watching people walk around it. It takes two extra seconds,
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about these laws, is that there's going to be a technological way to get around these restrictions through the very tools that are making it necessary to label these things as dangerous. It's tricky.
But yeah, so
yes,
AI,
I'd oppose that. It's obviously, given what I said earlier.
Such a emerging issue. It's getting crazier every week. So yeah, I think we're going to be talking about this more. And every time Linnea has some either trip, whether it's business or personal, and leaves the main chair vacant, I'm going to jump in and talk about artificial intelligence. So if you see my face on here, it's going to probably be talking about that or some other emerging issue. We do have a whole bunch of other stuff that we work on too in the Emerging Issues Center, but nothing gets these finger guns going like artificial intelligence topics. So that's going to do it for us on this episode of In the Tank. Like I said, beginning of the episode, for those audio-only listeners that are listening to the show, leave a review for us on iTunes. That would be greatly appreciated. And consider joining us, where we are live streaming this Thursdays at noon Central Time on YouTube and Rumble and X and Facebook and Instagram. I don't know. All of these different places. Join the conversation live. Throw your comments and questions in the chat. Maybe we'll show your comments on the screen. Maybe we'll address your questions on the fly. Also, hit that like button. Share this content. Subscribe if you haven't already. Or just leave a comment under the video. All those things help break through those big tech algorithms that prevent content like this from being shown to more people. Jim Lakely, where can the fine people find you?
At J Lakely on X, and join us tomorrow, same time, same channels, for the Climate Realism Show. Two amazing climate realist scientists, Will Happer and Dick Lenzen, were a guest on Joe Rogan's podcast this week. It was amazing. It's already been seen by millions, and that's going to be our main topic tomorrow. So you're going to want to talk to Will Happer himself. He'll be there to talk about the whole experience.
Oh, that's amazing. Fantastic. Sam Karnick, where can the fine people find more of your work?
At ST Karnick on social media, and stkarnick.substack.com, and the Heartland Institute website. You can often find me on the front page there.
Fantastic. Thank you all for tuning in, and Linnea and the crew will probably talk to you next week. So long.
What we should really do right now is just sit around, talk about all the times back in the day when me and Barack would run around the hallways of the White House with candies, and we'd snip the kids' hairs as we gave them candies.